Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome back to another episode. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Mexican lifestyle and how it's not for everyone. We're going to be talking about a lot today, and let's just get right into it. So, a lot of people always ask me, are Mexican people really poor or are they just frugal? The reality is that, Mexico is not as rich as the USA, but what is rich? Is it just having money and stuff? Or is it, again, being rich in life? And so, again, if you're out here in Mexico and you, just see how life really is on a daily basis, you quickly find out that, Mexico is a lot richer, than the USA or Canada. Because, again, people out here, they're really rich in life. And they might not have, all the fancy things that you have. Out here in Mexico, a lot of people, they are, more frugal than anything else. And they hold value in other things that you might not even consider. Mexico is a modern country. And, most Mexicans have access, to all the modern comforts that you have back home. They got everything from, again, fast food, malls, fancy cars, fancy phones, whatever it is that you have, they have out here too. The thing is that not everybody wants to live that life, and not everybody is forced to live that life. Again, if you want to live a very, very simple life and, live out in here in a pueblo, like the ones that you're seeing right now as I'm walking around Chicxulub, Pueblo, or you're going to be seeing a little later on, we're going to be walking around the Pueblo of Ixil. You can live a very simple life. Just get yourself a little plot of land out here, rent a place out here, and just live amongst the people. And, basically it's like a free-for-all. You don't really got to worry about, all these rules and regulations and laws and, all this other stuff that you have to follow. And how, just have a small little business, interact with the village and the pueblo, maybe, go to town, go to the major city, once in a blue moon to go pick up some supplies or whatever. And, again, you get to just live your nice, simple life, and no one's going to say anything if you're riding a horse, through the city streets, or if you got a golf cart or, an ATV or whatever it is, you can just do whatever you want for the most part. Again, as long as you're not hurting anybody or bothering anybody, you basically can do whatever you want. And for a lot of Mexicans, that don't want to live that simple rural village life, well, they can just go to the city. They can move to the city. Some people, live in the village in the pueblo and they go to work in the city, make that money, bring it back, and again, eventually save up enough money to buy a plot of land, buy a home, build a business, whatever, and just continue living that life out there. So some people, well, they don't want to live in the village or the pueblo, at all. And so they just go to the city and live in the city and, go after that kind of lifestyle. And, again, they can have the fancy malls, they can have a fancy job, they can live the American lifestyle, just like you're living over there where you're at. The thing is that out here, you can really choose whether you want to live that or not. Now, why do some people want to live that and some people don't? Well, again, it's all a matter of taste. It's all a matter of what you're into. So for some Mexicans, well, of course, they want the fancy car, they want a fancy house. They want to, go to Starbucks every day. They want to eat at McDonald's or the fancy restaurants. They want to experience a different kind of lifestyle. And so with that, it's going to cost money. It does come, at a cost. And what is that cost? Well, they got to give up more and more of their freedom in order to achieve, that. And, for some people, it's not worth the cost. For some people, they would rather just live a very simple life in which, again, they just have all the freedom that they want. All they got to do is just, again, do some simple, basic work, in order to, make some money, in order to, pay the basic bills that they have to pay, and they're good to go. They don't really have any much more aspirations than just, again, living the best life that they can live. Now, for some people, again, they have huge aspirations, and so, well, that's where the big city is available. And some of you guys, have seen some of my other videos or, seen other YouTubers, and they, show you exactly, how modern Mexico is. And so a lot of Mexicans, believe it or not, well, they want to live that American lifestyle. And, all they got to do is work really hard and, they can do it. And, for a lot of, expats, foreigners, Americans, Canadians that move out here, well, a lot of you guys, you want to live exactly the same life that you're living, back home. In fact, you want to live that life or better. And you just automatically think that, well, everything is going to be more affordable and cheaper. And that's not the reality of it. A lot of things are going to be cheaper. And in fact, if you want to live a very, frugal lifestyle and you don't want to spend that much money, well, you're probably going to be having to live a certain way, the way that maybe I live or the way that other people live, that again, that just from an outsider's perspective, it might look like they are poor and they don't have anything. But the reality is that, well, no, maybe they just don't want, all of these things that's going to cost them, all this freedom to attain. And so for a lot of Americans or Canadians, again, foreigners that come out here, the reality is that they don't understand that in order for them to live a certain Mexican lifestyle, well, that means that they got to cut back on their own lifestyle, on their own, luxuries and wants and desires and all this other stuff. And again, it doesn't mean that you can't live an amazing full life out here. You can. In fact, again, I've talked about it all the time on my channel where, I make around $1,000, $1,500 a month, and I live an amazing life. And why is that? Well, it's simply because, I don't want to put in all that work and effort, wasting my life away just so that I can have an insulated home. Or I can have, an extra bedroom that I'm probably not going to use. Or a fancy car that is really just going to, be used, a few times a week. And, I can go on and on. There's a bunch of things out there that we just don't need. I don't need to have the brand new Samsung or the brand new iPhone. I'm perfectly fine, living my life, with a cheap $200 phone. But for some people, they can't live like that. They are accustomed to a certain lifestyle back home, and then they come out to Mexico and they think, that it's going to be, again, cost them a lot less, when the reality is that it's not. If you're going to McDonald's, if you're going to Starbucks, if you're, again, you want to have all these fancy things, all these fancy services, whatever it is, it's going to cost you money. And again, sure, it's going to be a lot more affordable than it is in the USA, but the reality is that, but for some people, it's just not. And so, that's where you see a lot of people that come out here and they are constantly complaining about, oh my God, Mexico's so expensive. Oh my goodness, the exchange rate. Oh my gosh, I'm spending $3,000-$4,000 a month and it's not enough. I might as well just stay back home. And it's like, well, again, you got to look into your own spending habits and your own lifestyle as to why that is. Why is it that I, myself, and my wife and my dog, can live on, again, $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month, and you cannot? Why is it that there's other foreigners out there that live on less than $1,000 a month? Why is it that most Mexicans can live on less than $1,000 a month and you cannot? Well, again, it all boils down to, your fancy lifestyle. And that's as simple as that. So, as I'm walking around, these villages, or I take you to certain places or areas that you might not even be caught dead in, the reality is that, these people are very happy living the life that they're living. And they don't care what you think or whether or not, you can live the life that they can live. In fact, most of these people, that live this certain lifestyle, whether they're living out here in the village or they're living in the city, they can actually survive, whatever emergency, might arise. Let's say it's a natural disaster, or let's say it's something like the pandemic or whatever it is. One thing that I realized out here, as the last several years happened, and we had all those crises, that were affecting the whole world, was that most Mexicans, they were living just fine and dandy. They were all, again, helping each other. You got to really see the community come together. and you got to see neighbors, helping neighbors. No one was ever, in any kind of danger of starving or losing their home or losing their living or anything like that. We didn't have any crisis, where small businesses were closing down left and right. No, in fact, it was a complete opposite. As people were not hiring and there weren't any jobs to go around. Well, most people had no choice but to become an entrepreneur. And because of that, well, now they're successful business owners, a few years later. And, out here, the complete opposite of what happened, where you're from was happening, meaning, again, things just got stronger. People just got, better acclimated, to dealing with, the harshness and the difficulty of life. Where, again, in the USA, for example, people were literally fighting over toilet paper and other things. There was no sense of real community. There was no sense of like help your neighbor. There was nothing like that. And, that's a big, reason why, I love living out here so much is the fact that it doesn't matter how much you have or how little you have, everyone basically treats each other the same. Now, it's not to say that there isn't any kind of, bigotry or any kind of, idea of like, the haves and the have-nots. No, there is. There's a big, wealth gap out here, just like there is, in the USA. But the reality is that, most people that fall into just a regular, middle class, category, they're all helping each other out. And, anyone that's the haves, the upper 1%, the ones that, spend, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 a month, again, they're not even part of the actual community itself. And so it's kind of like a moot point. And so it's just a completely different lifestyle out here. And so with that said, another aspect, of like living in Mexico, which I just love so much, and again, it's not for everybody, is the fact that, living in Mexico, just living life is not a crime. In the USA, again, just try to start a small business. Try driving your, ATV, your horse, your, whatever vehicle you have, without the proper documentation around your town or your village, back in the USA to see how far you're going to get and to see how, far up your arse, these authority figures go up, just to make sure that, again, you're, following all the rules and all the laws and all the regulations and all that stuff. And so, to me, the freedom that comes from living in Mexico is, by far leaps and bounds better than whatever it is you can find in the USA. I am constantly seeing all kinds of videos, and I myself have constantly experienced, all kinds of things in the USA as to where, I was constantly questioning, am I really free out here? I have to follow all these rules, all these laws. I have to have all this paperwork. I got to do all of these things, or else I'm probably going to end up in jail or worse. And so, to me, I constantly see in Mexico how people just, basically do whatever they want. And as long as no one's really hurting anyone else, there's no harm being inflicted, you can live your life. If you just want to set up a, taco stand or sell tamales, out of the front of your house, or, go to the park and do something like that, no one's going to bother you. No one's going to harass you. If you're in a major city, they might just ask you, like, hey, do you have a special permit just to be here in this specific area? And if you don't, well, again, they just tell you, all right, don't let me catch you here again unless you got your permit. All right, I'll let you go this time. You'll be totally fine. Or again, if you don't even have the resources to, get the paperwork or whatever it is to sell, in a certain area of the city, well, you can just do it out of the front of your house, out of the comfort of your home. Or again, you can just be in a village or a pueblo when no one's even going to bat an eye at whatever it is you decide to do with your life. And that's the thing, out here living in Mexico, you actually get to be free. It's not a crime to just live your life. Again, in the USA, everything is a crime. And in fact, the more you try to be a good citizen, the more likely it is that you're going to be harassed by some sort of authority figure and, get in trouble. And, it's just a bizarro world, especially these days. You see tons of people that are living on the street, using the bathroom on the street, taking drugs on the street, just horrible, just horribleness. And yet the police, never, ever, harass them at all. That's the USA. Again, the USA, the more you try to be a good citizen, follow the laws, follow all the regulations, or whatever it is, whether it's a police officer that's harassing you, it might be your HOA, representative that's, knocking on your door and giving you a fine just simply because, I don't know, you ordered too many pizzas, or you're thinking about having a party, or, you get an Amazon delivery and you didn't bring it inside quick enough, and they don't want an eyesore of having a box on the front of your house. And I could go on and on with all the ridiculousness of what it is to live in the USA. Again, how many people are crossing the border right now without any kind of paperwork, without any kind of legal status or anything like that? They just, again, it's all illegal, but it's all encouraged. And yet try, entering the USA, through the airport or through a actual, port of entry, legally with your passport and all that stuff. And you'll see, they have TSA that, sniffing you up and down, asking you 38 questions, and just, they make you feel like a criminal in your own country. And again, actual criminals, they get the red carpet rolled out for them. So, I could go on and on about that, but I'm choosing not to because, again, that's not really what this video is about. It's more about, the lifestyle that is out here in Mexico is just not for everyone. And, a lot of people, they want all these rules and regulations, and they want, all this cleanliness, that really is more like a fallacy than anything else. To me, it's hilarious, when people, they point out simple things like, oh, how come they put their trash outside and they don't have a trash bin? I'm like, bro, what are you talking about? There's people living in tents outside of your home. And you're, out here complaining about the fact that, they don't have a trash bin. They just simply put their trash bag outside and wait for the garbage man to come pick it up. And so, again, the thing about living in Mexico that a lot of people just don't understand, especially if you want to live, again, in a certain budget, in a certain, kind of like income level, is the fact that it's a free-for-all out here and people really just get to do whatever they want. I've mentioned it before, where citizens, get in fights, with the police, and they don't get arrested at all. And, again, how neighbors, might be a little too noisy and there's not really anything you can do about it. And, again, I can go on and on as to all these things that, for some people, they don't mind. They actually love the fact that Mexico is the way it is. And for a lot of Americans and Canadians that move out here, they just, they can't understand how people can live in such a world in which, there's absolutely no authority to be had. And so, this brings on the next point, which is, do Mexicans hate expats or foreigners? And the reality is not really. No, they don't. You've seen in plenty of my videos how much they love expats, foreigners, whatever you want to call yourself, okay? What they hate are people that come out here and they try to impose their ways upon them. The Mexican people have their way of life. They like to be able to have the freedom of, again, if they want to have a beer on the front of their porch, right on the street, if they want to, again, ride a horse, through the streets, if they want to sell things, without having any license or anything like that, that they can do that. And, they don't want, someone to come out here and start, changing their ways and changing their culture by demanding, for them to, again, be more like the USA, and you're going to see this, with other Mexicans as well, that they complain sometimes about the fact that, oh, we're never going to be a first world country because, the way that we live our lives out here, we don't have any respect, for any kind of rule of law or authority figures, and we just do whatever we want. And most Mexicans, they end up laughing at that and laughing at them because the reality is that, listen, if you want to live that life, you can just move to the USA, move to Canada. Don't worry, don't let the door hit you on the way out. The reality is that a typical Mexican is really just not going to understand, your plight coming from the USA, because most Mexicans, just like most people around the world, they look at the USA, as the greatest country in the world, the bastion of freedom and, all this other stuff. And, all of a sudden you're coming out here and all you're doing is complaining. All you're doing is saying how crappy things are out here and that you wish that things were just like they were back home. And again, basically having first world problems, okay, out here where, most people don't have those kind of problems at all. The problems that they have are nothing like you could even fathom. They're just regular, normal, everyday problems, things that, they might seem very odd to you. And the reality is, just like your problems are going to be very odd to them. They really just don't understand how you could be complaining about the fact that you don't have the brand new whatever it is, or that you're spending so much money on your electric bill, or that you're expecting, a typical Mexican worker to revolve around your schedule. And, and that could go on and on. The reality is that in order for you to really succeed out here in Mexico, meaning, have a wonderful and happy life out here in Mexico, is that you have to assimilate. And by assimilating, it means that, again, you have to get used to their culture, their customs, their way of life, and so on and so forth. It's not the other way around. Okay, they don't have to get used to you. They don't have to get used to the way that you live your life, or none of that at all. So if you come to Mexico and you want to live the same exact life that you're living back home, well, just please understand that, you're going to be in that upper 1%, and you're going to be living with certain other Mexicans that probably make more than you, or again, live a very elitist life. And, they're very separated from the rest of the Mexicans. Okay. And, that's, again, how can you really relate to a typical Mexican living in a village, in a pueblo, in a regular working class neighborhood, when you yourself are not willing to even go to those neighborhoods, go to those areas, and even, again, talk to some of these people, embrace the culture. I hear it all the time, where people complain or they are disgusted by even the thought of eating a taco from a taco stand or a hot dog from a hot dog stand. Now, they'll go right around and, they'll eat their McDonald's, or they'll eat, a dirty hot dog from a hot dog cart in the USA. But just the thought of a Mexican, selling them, food without even maybe washing their hands, or they don't see that they're washing their hands, that's enough for them to be disgusted and not want to, eat anything at all. And so, there's just a lot of things about your own personal life that you have to, change, assuming that you haven't already changed or live a certain way, in order for you to really be able to embrace life out here in Mexico. Again, Mexico is not for everyone. This lifestyle is not for everyone, but for people out there that are adventurous, that really, really want to enjoy life and really, again, take the bull by the horns and, just constantly, again, chase that freedom and chase the lifestyle that I live and that so many other Mexicans live. Well, you're going to probably have to change your ways a little bit, or a lot of it. Okay. But regardless, it's not going to be, what you're used to. And if you embrace it, you're going to be very happy. If you don't embrace it, you're going to be extremely miserable. And so that's just the reality of it. So with all that being said, I really hope that you guys enjoyed today's video as we were walking around the pueblos and villages here in the Yucatan, and that again, hopefully this gave you a little bit more insight as to, well, whether or not you're going to be able to live and survive out here or not. Again, to me, I wouldn't have it any other way. I love life out here, and I love the freedom and the openness, and again, the fact that most Mexicans, they're more concerned about being rich in life as opposed to being rich in money in their bank account. It's a certain lifestyle that I highly encourage you guys to try out and perhaps even live. So, with all that being said, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video. And if you did, you already know what to do. Don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon. But more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.